morning, everyone. It is a thrill that you are all here with us this morning. I want to say welcome. Ganera, it's so good to have you here with us this morning.
Just thought I'd pop in.
I think it's a great idea. She's going to sing with us this morning. This is the day that the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Let's do that today. Welcome again to the Center of Unity. We're thrilled that you're here. We hope that over this next hour that you're going to find something that inspires you and lifts you up and just does something good for you today. Let's go ahead and get going. Open the eyes of my heart. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love. We sing holy, holy, holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, 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 I want to see you. Do that again, Bob. Holy, 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 I want to see you. Fathering arms, fill up my longing soul, and flood over me like a river, my God. Immerse me in your living stream. Awaken the song that you placed in my heart. Spirit, breathe on me. Spirit, breathe on me.
This morning that feels like a prayer already singing in our hearts. So I just invite you to take a moment and let's take these words and the energy of this music into our minds, into our hearts, so that we can truly see through the eyes of our heart, so that we can feel the very breath that is coming into our bodies, being the essence and the breath of God. On this day, we ask that we can truly be that essence and be that light into our own lives and into our world. that we can be a sacrament, meaning that we are making visible spiritual grace. It is this moment and it is this day that we are being called to be the love in expression in our world. And we are grateful for the beautiful ways in which that unfolds. And we say thank you. Thank you, God. Amen. Well, good morning, everyone. So happy that you're here with us, whether you're watching us live right now or whether you're joining us at another time that's convenient for you. We're grateful to have you be a part of us. And we're grateful for the ways in which you continue to engage in your spiritual journey. We sent out a survey a couple of days ago because we're excited that for sure on Easter Sunday, we are going to gather together, both at a sunrise service outdoor in our parking lot, for some that may feel more comfortable, and then in person here in the sanctuary. We will all still continue to observe masking and physical distancing and all of the other protocols, but just to have an opportunity to once again gather together and be in the physical presence of one another is very exciting to me. And we're also looking for your feedback as to your readiness to come and perhaps participate in in-person services again. So if you haven't had a moment to fill that out, we really would love to hear from you, because this isn't a decision we want to make, it's a decision that we want to make that really supports the desires of our community. We are excited about how life continues to unfold. We're inching ever and ever closer to that place of, quote, normalcy, which I don't know if there'll ever be a normal like the old normal, but we're creating a new one. And glad that you're here with us, and pray that what you experience today brings you that energy of joy and of knowing that all things are possible.
I filled out that survey that Reverend Linda just mentioned. There's a little link embedded in that email, and it's really easy to click on, get to, and fill out. And so, of course, it would be good if you will. I'm here today to talk about the Center of Unity's mission, vision, core values, and the core value of the day. As a community, we came together and agreed upon the church mission, and that is, we inspire spiritual growth through prayer, education, and sacred service. The vision of our community is, centered in God, we envision a world free of judgment and filled with love. The core values that we seek to govern ourselves by are spirit-led, service, inclusive, joy, and prosperous. Joy is the core value we're going to look at today. Joy is a core value we all desire in our lives. We may have experienced times in our lives when outwardly we had everything we have desired and worked for, yet there may not be a sense of peace, and a deep-seated sense of well-being may elude us. Working harder does not bring it, nor does ignoring its absence. Surely more does not create that sense of completion. It is joy that we desire, and joy is a spiritual attribute. The Bible is filled with beautiful verses about joy. Acts 2:28 says, "You have made known to me the paths of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence." Romans 15:13 states, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." And Galatians 5:22 declares, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness." Joy comes from a continuous and deep connection with Spirit, and of course with our own spiritual nature. This occurs as we focus our thoughts on divine love and our connection with that love and seek to express it in our daily lives through thought, word, and deed. We cultivate daily practices of prayer and meditation. Daily, we live in gratitude, and we seek to live in continual forgiveness and unity with all others. In seeking to be of service, we allow Father, Mother, God to use us as channels of love and blessings. We align our will with divine will, and in so doing, we come to a place of abiding joy. As John 15:11 tells us, I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. Let us seek to live in the abundance of joy, which is our birthright. The unity principles that we strive to exemplify here are: there is one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, God, the good, omnipotent. The divinity is within all humankind. Jesus was not the exception, rather the example. We have direct access to God through prayer and meditation. We create our life experiences through our way of thinking, feeling, and acting. We can demonstrate now the good we desire. The daily word for today is world peace. Celebrating diversity and affirming unity, I am a presence of peace in the world. The road to world peace begins with my open-hearted acceptance of those who are different than me. Our world is vast and diverse, and its peoples come from a wide variety of cultures and histories. The more I learn about those whose lives differ from mine, the more I can appreciate their perspectives and empathize with their struggles. When I make the decision to understand others, I discover that judgment fades in the light of compassion. Today, I sow peace through my acceptance and understanding. Peace in the world grows as I join my brothers and sisters in celebrating the glory of human diversity and affirming oneness in God. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Isaiah 2:4.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Jim. Thank you all. We have such talented people in this community. I'm very grateful for each of you and the gifts that you bring to the Sunday morning experience. And this morning, we are continuing our series entitled The Wisdom Jesus, a new perspective on Christ and the message. It's based on the book by Cynthia Bourgeau. I'm probably still not saying that correct. She's an Episcopal priest. She is an advocate of the contemplative Christian movement, and really one of those people, along with others, at the forefront of reimagining and re-understanding the Christian theology. We began a few weeks ago by looking at the discoveries that were made over the past 50 years, specifically the scrolls that have been found in Nag Hammadi and the Dead Sea Scrolls. These ancient documents that give us a different lens on early Christianity that perhaps has fallen away, in fact, was in many respects destroyed over time. And one that understood Jesus to be a life giver, that understood Jesus as a wisdom teacher and a way shower, with less emphasis on Jesus being a savior. We explored how we can live from the kingdom of heaven, that it is an internal experience that we can have. And we explored how it is that we can begin to put on the mind of Christ, as Paul suggested we each needed to do in order to reach that place that we call heaven. In the terms that we might use today, the author suggests that in order to be able to do that, at least on a consistent and regular basis, it calls us each to upgrade our operating systems, something that most of us have some grasp on. She reminds us that in our human experience, we have been installed with what she calls an ego-based operating system. It runs on the power of either or. It lives in the realm of dualism, which is what our physical sensory experience of this earth is gleaned from. And yet this operating system can only perceive things in terms of separation. It can only perceive things as we compare it to something else, good and bad, up and down, right and wrong, hot and cold, all of the different ways in which we differentiate between this and something other. And in order to be able to put on the mind of Christ, to be able to live from that kingdom of heaven, we have to install, or at least upgrade to a new operating system, one that is unitive, one that sees life, the lens of life, the perspective of life is through harmony and through oneness. One that allows us to, as the song that we sang earlier of Open the Eyes of My Heart, allows us to be able to actually see through those eyes of the heart and to be able to see likeness rather than differentiation. It allows us to operate with this new way of being that is both and rather than either or. You know, I've been working with this as we've been going through this series, and when it comes to mind, challenging myself to say, in this moment, can I see things through a different way? And I was in the grocery store this past week and standing in a line. I had just gone in to pick up a couple things and was in the 15 or less items line. And inevitably, the person in front of me had like 35 items. I was standing there counting them. Do we do that? Have you ever done that? I'm like, how many do they have? And, you know, I almost immediately found myself being irritated, you know, feeling like this person didn't have the wherewithal to understand that, you know, there's rules that we follow, there's guidelines that are put into place. And in that moment, I stopped for just a minute and I said, what if? What would this look like if I were actually able to see it, not through the lens of right and wrong, which is where my mind was in that moment, but through the lens of harmony, through the lens of oneness. And I began to just see what shows up in my mind. And the first thing that came up is there's enough time. There's enough, you know, you have enough to not have to worry about how many items somebody else has. And it also brought to mind, well, what if this person really did have an important, you know, They had to go to the hospital, or they had to do something that was really important, which is why the reason that they slid into the 15 or less item. And as I began to think about that, I could just feel my emotions begin to shift in a new way of saying, yeah, it's okay. You know, it's not worth getting my blood pressure up because somebody had a few more items than the sign said that they should. Last week, we discovered another way to also support us in putting on the mind of Christ. And it was to, as often as we could, follow this path that Jesus demonstrated of kenosis. The very act of self-emptying, which is in a very minor way what happened to me in that line. All of a sudden, it wasn't about me. It was about how I could give and be gracious and be accepting and forgiving of what was happening around me. Of looking at ways that we can recklessly squander our love. Not hold on to it, not say it's reserved for only you and only you, but to abandonedly be willing to give it away. To embrace everything without judgment, and to be willing to cling to nothing. It's not our natural default operating system, but it is possible that we can live more and more from that understanding. And so today, I want us to consider a new way of thinking about, of feeling about, why Jesus lowered himself into this physical manifestation and why his life ended the way that it did. You know, Christianity, from its very early beginnings, certainly within about 100 years after Jesus had left the planet, was formed through the lens of the fall and the redemption. It begins with the supposition that Jesus came to earth as, to use some more updated vernacular, God's course correction, so that the inherited sin of Adam and Eve could be forgiven and redeemed through the sacrifice of his beloved Son. I'm guessing that's what many of you were probably taught in your early church experience, if you went to church. And this is supported. It was, you could see, at least in some respects, that thought process happening as early as 60 to 70 years after Christ died. With Paul in Corinthians 15, he writes, "And in Adam all died, so in Christ all shall be made alive." It shapes how we understand the phrase, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son." Jesus, in many ways, the ultimate sacrificial lamb. And the only path in which we are worthy of a place in the kingdom is through our belief, through our acceptance of this sacrifice. For the people of the time that Jesus walked the earth, sacrifice was a deeply embedded practice within their theology, both from the Jewish perspective and other religious practices of that time. Sacrificing animals was the way that they understood that they could atone for their sins, for their shortcomings. And thousands of years even before the time of Jesus, we're told the story of Moses, who God tests by asking him to physically sacrifice his son. We know he didn't ultimately have to come to that, but there was this idea that perhaps this is what God wanted. Sacrifice was an integrated part of religious practices all over the world. And for me personally, this was the theology of Christianity in my young life that I just could not embrace. From my modern day perspective, not having grown up with this idea of sacrifice, at least from an animal or human perspective, I could not understand a God that was so limited in his or her or its power, that was so limited in its creative nature, the one who created all of the universe, that the only way to uplift the human condition was to sacrifice his son. And ultimately, at least in my younger years, when this was the only theology being put forth that I was aware of, it wasn't a God I could follow. In today's terms, if we describe someone like that, they would almost be labeled a monster, that who would require this kind of sacrifice. And the author invites us to consider another metaphysical understanding of the life and the death of Jesus. What if the unfolding of creation from its very beginning and all that has unfolded in the history and the timelessness of time is God's desire to realize the depths of divine love, to experience the depths of divine love? So hang with me here. Let's maybe back up just a little bit and see how we might be able to begin to grasp this otherworldly concept. The author writes this. She said, "Yes, this is a very heavy, frustrating, and difficult density that we come into by taking birth in the human realm. And because of the binary and finite nature of both the physical world and this ego operating system, which we have as our default and we use to navigate this world, it seems as if we're always bumping into sharp edges. That life, at best, presents us with a series of seemingly irrevocable choices. To do one thing means that we have to give up something else. To marry one person means that we can't marry someone else. And as she puts it from her perspective, to join a monastery means we can't marry at all. Our confused agendas clash both inwardly and outwardly, and we cause each other pain as a result. For most of us anyway, our bodies age. We diminish, at least at some level, physically. Love falls out of our lives, and the force of gravity seems tenacious at times, holding our feet to the ground and oftentimes our souls as well. She asks us to consider that Jesus came, and indeed each of us come to this dense and constricted place as a sacrament. Now, I don't know what your understanding and definition of a sacrament, but in the traditional definition, a sacrament is an outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace. Maybe an expanded understanding might be that a sacrament does not merely symbolize a spiritual reality, it lives that spiritual reality into existence. So a sacrament is not just about an expression of a spiritual reality, it is the actual energetic force that brings that spiritual grace into being in this dense place. This dimension of density and sharp edges we experience seems to be, for some reason, the perfect environment for experiencing and bringing that spiritual grace into reality, for bringing vast dimensions of divine love into being, expressed as steadfastness, expressed as kindness and beauty and forgiveness and so much more. Jesus did not just demonstrate this spiritual reality, he lived it into greater existence. And so we can begin to understand that our earthly experience is not about good behavior in preparation for that final judgment. It's not even necessarily a finishing school where we learn what we need to learn, nor a place necessarily where we work off our karmic debt. It is to claim our place as a sacrament to God, one who lives spiritual grace, one who calls divine love into greater existence. So how is it that we can begin to put the context of perhaps what has been part of our embedded theology and shift it in a new way? How are we to understand the statement that was made in the scriptures, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son? The author once again suggests that the Son, in its wider metaphysical context, is no longer one who bails us out or even necessarily died for our sins, but one who becomes the bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. He becomes our bridge from our physical experience of life to the spiritual reality that also exists, both and at the same time. What if Jesus died not to elicit from us our praise or our guilt or our devotion, but rather to grow beyond the the survival instincts of the animal brain and the limitness of this ego operating system into a place that allows us to have harmony and freedom? In his final days on earth, he focuses on reassuring those around him that while what they are about to witness may be difficult and painful and perhaps even brutal, that he and they and us will never be cut off from the indwelling love. He assures them, I am the vine, you are the branches. Love one another as I have loved you. He goes on to say that, Father, the glory that you have given to me, I have given to them, so that they may be one as we are one. I and them, and you and me. He gives them the analogy of childbirth to maybe help understand this a little better in John 16. He says that very truly I tell you, you will weep and mourn, but the world, the spiritual reality of the world, will rejoice. You will have pain, but your pain will turn into joy. When a woman is in labor, she has pain because her hour has come. But when her child is born, she no longer remembers, at least it fades over time, the anguish, because the joy of having brought a human being into the world exceeds whatever pain there had been before. He's telling them, so you may have pain now, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one can take your joy from you. He assures them in John 14:4, while they fully may not grasp in this moment what he's saying or wanting to impart to them, or where and why this is unfolding, he reminds them, you do know the way and the place where I am going. You know it. Of course, Thomas says, no, we don't. No, we don't understand at all. He said, yes, within you. If you can tap into it, you already know. And Jesus offers us this same assurance. We do know. We may not fully understand it. We may not even be able to have it be a part of our daily experience, but we know. And while we may not understand the fullness of this earthly experience, nor the process of death, which each of us will walk through, we are capable of following a path of humility and of unconditional love, as he did. The Christ presence within us becomes our bridge to God, and it does indeed know the way. You know, I've said a lot this morning, and this may clash with some of your long-held beliefs. It may stir up questions, and it may leave you feeling a little bit off kilter and off balance. It may hurt your mind like it did mine as I was trying to prepare this, just trying to think about it all. You know, this is big, big spiritual concepts. And in truth, our best attempts to try and put form around what is a sacred mystery is at best difficult from our own humanness to be able to grasp. It will likely, as it has for me, change and evolve as we change and evolve. It certainly has over the last few thousand years. And so has our capacity to love. You know, we have a long way to go, and we look around and we see a lot of despair and difficulty and challenges and things that we would consider to be really wrong happening, not only in our country, but in our world. And yet, if we look at the long picture of humanity, I was reminded that when Jesus walked the earth, the prime method of entertainment was blood sports in arenas with humans and animals. It seems unfathomable to us today, but that was the state of our human evolution at that time. So we are making progress moment by moment and day by day. Our Christ nature and our world do spiritually evolve every time we express divine love. Every act of kindness, every thought, and every feeling of compassion, every moment of humility, every time we can be in that abiding joy, we shift. This world shifts, and ultimately we move closer and closer to bringing that kingdom of heaven to this experience and to the experience of life all over the universe. And so it is with that understanding that I would like us to begin to see if we can't process it, not through our head, but through our heart, as we move into a time of meditation. So if you're willing, just be comfortable where you are. Plant your feet on the floor so that you're grounded into this earth and the nurturance that the earth brings to us. And also, allow yourself to sit up straight so that you can feel the flow of energy moving through your body with every breath that you take. And see if you can imagine moving that thinking part of you in your head slowly down into your heart space. See if you can move that visual part that we see through our eyes and allow that sense, that physical way in which we receive information to move down into our heart space so that we can indeed see through the eyes of our heart. We can hear through our heart. We can listen through our heart. And even we can speak into this energy of our heart. And into that heart space, see if you can bring and see and feel and know the presence of a person or a beloved pet, or perhaps even the Spirit of Jesus himself, alive in your heart space, filling that space with unconditional love. And as your heart overflows with that love, it moves out and energizes every part of your being. Perhaps healing what needs to be healed. Energizing and transforming our physical and our spiritual bodies. And as we continue to breathe in to that loving energy, imagine now with every out breath, like a ripple in a pond, begins to move out beyond your physical confines, out into the room that you're in, rippling even further now out into your neighborhood, out into the city and state that you live in. It picks up momentum, and with each ripple goes further and further and further until it is a ripple moving through our entire country, intersecting with the other ripples of those doing it right now with you, whether in this community or in communities all around the country, in that energy of praying for greater love. And in this energetic form, in an instant, it encompasses and surrounds and moves through our entire planet. And with another deep breath, see if you can even now feel that ripple moving out into the realms of the universe and beyond, into the realms of other dimensions, and being met as the ripples come back towards you by that universal energy of love, that creative force that is the very essence of all of life. In that flow of giving and receiving, there can be no diminishing of this love. It is like a river that returns unto itself, a never-ending flow. And in this moment, know that we have moved one increment, one step, one motion closer to bringing the kingdom of heaven into our experience and into our spiritual reality. You are the very essence and being beckoned to be the very sacrament that lives spiritual grace into being. And whenever you're ready, you can begin to bring your attention back to this time and space, aware once again of your physical body as it's being supported in this moment, of the sounds in the room. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. You know, it may be difficult to believe that we have the same capacity for expressing divine love that Jesus demonstrated. And alone in our human condition, it is difficult to be able to feel and to know that as a truth. And yet God has gifted us with a roadmap and implanted within us the very spiritual energy to do just that. He gifted us with a bridge, a friend, a guide to walk this journey with us. So my invitation to you this week is to consider that you are here to be a sacrament to God, an outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace. And see how often you can live that spiritual grace into reality, and to be raised into a new dimension of life.
That was absolutely unbelievable. Thank you very much. You are so welcome. Such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Good morning. It is time for our offertory call, and is the time we prepare our tithes and our offerings and our gifts. And I want to remind you that this Sunday is the first Sunday, and so we typically used to give two offerings. We would do one for normal things, and then we would do one for the reserve. So Keep that in mind. And as you hold your gift and your heart in mind, we have an offertory blessing. And the Bible talks about the power of the tongue. And we say these things, we kind of, we say these things. But the power of the tongue, the power of the word, it manifests and it makes things happen. So when we say these things, envision that in your mind, talking about multiplying all that you have and all that you give. And see that in your heart when you say these words. All right, let's do it together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. All right, we're going to welcome our visitors. If you're watching us for the very first time, we're glad you're here. We're glad that you have joined us. And we invite you to visit the Center of Unity website, centerofunity.org, and there is a connection card there. I believe it's /connect, and you can fill out information. And we just want to say thank you very much for being with us. And this is also the time where we like to show a little appreciation, and we would like to do that this morning for all of our volunteers, past, present, to those who have been involved in things that we did when we were all here and open in the church, and the volunteers that we're going to have going forward. And we can't imagine doing what we do around here without our volunteers. And they are an integral and important part of this church community. And so to all of our volunteers, we want to say we love you, we bless you, and we truly appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. Namaste.
Here's what's coming up at Center of Unity. We are delighted to announce that we have the opportunity to deepen our understanding of connection and community with a 7-week series on Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, facilitated by Karen Stars. In this series, we will learn how to dissolve enemy images and free our life energy to create more peace in the world. Although this is a series, you don't have to commit to all 7 sessions. Come as you are and meet your community at a deeper level. You can register from our website or the Center of Unity app. Every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m., Reverend Linda leads a metaphysical Bible interpretation class on Zoom. Each class is self-contained and all are welcome to join. The Zoom ID is on the screen, or you can access it from the website or the Center of Unity app. Every Sunday, we gather on Zoom before church to say hi and catch up. Come join us from 10 to 10:25 a.m. The Zoom ID is on the screen, or you can access it from our website or the Center of Unity app. The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity class meets on Thursdays from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. for the next 4 weeks. It's based on the book by Edwin Gaines. Be sure to join us as we consciously grow our faith towards receiving the divine inheritance we've not yet claimed. The Zoom ID is on the screen, or you can access it from our website or the Center of Unity app. There are multiple ways you can make a donation to the Center of Unity. You can drop your donation off at the church, mail it to our P.O. box, visit our website, use the COU or Venmo app, or you can text 817-606-8768 and follow the prompts. Your continued support is greatly appreciated.
Joining us today, we hope you found something amazing in this sermon. You certainly hurt my head a little bit. I just want you to know there were some things there that you said that, but thank you so much for everybody. Bob, why don't we end with our peace song, shall we? Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father,
And so as we go about this day and this week, seeking to live into experience that spiritual reality of divine love, we go knowing our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God, and the presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.